Well, I give up on the fire.
How are Emily and Ben supposed to reach us out here?
Well, they know where we are.
I knew this was a bad idea.
Em said they were gonna be a little late. Besides, I know a way we can pass the time.
The hell, Greg?
I got to take a piss anyway.
Prick.
Hey, Sam? Change your mind, did you?
help. Please.
Greg!
There's someone behind me. We need to go right now. Let's go.
In the gruesome aftermath of last week's latest in a string of mass murders that have plagued the remote regions of Crystal Lake, the final two survivors, a 12-year-old boy and his teenaged sister who lived in this house, have been moved to a county sanitarium for psychiatric examination. The boy, who is reported by Police Chief Scott Fitzsimmons to have savagely hacked the suspected serial killer to death with a machete, is said to be suffering from extreme psychological duress, the culmination of a week-long bloodbath which left his mother and at least 12 other victims brutally murdered. I'm Terrence Wynn for Ion News.
Chapter 4 of my book is called The Final Chapter. It's not. It is an account of the murder spree of the third Crystal Lake killer, and that was witnessed by a young boy named Tommy Jarvis. And Tommy was so traumatized by the things that he saw that he spent the next 6 years locked up in a mental hospital.
They actually thought about trying Tommy for manslaughter.
But they knew they'd never get a conviction. This was a 12-year-old boy who took out a man who slaughtered dozens, including Tommy's own mother.
I was a rookie back in those days. I remember it like it was yesterday. We walked into a bloodbath. Even the older guys there, they had never seen nothing like it.
When Tommy kept insisting that the guy he hacked up was Jason Voorhees, well, they locked him up.
Problem solved.
He was put on the standard drug therapies of the time, but often had to be kept in isolation after several violent episodes with fellow patients and hospital staff.
Yeah, I remember Tommy. I was working at the hospital the night they brought him in. He was a real freaked out kid, and he's real pale, and his head had been shaved, and you could tell by the way he looked at you with those black eyes that he had seen some really serious shit.
Tommy never had many visitors, other than his sister Trish, but his progress was minimal, and after a while she just stopped visiting.
There was this one night where another orderly tried to take his tray of food away before he was done eating, and just Tommy started shaking, and he freaked out, and he grabbed a fork and he stabbed him right in the arm.
Yeah, I remember Tommy Jarvis. He was bald. He had a cell. We had a little place we shared in the room together, and he wouldn't play tiger with me. He'd hit me! He'd hit me like a bad tiger because I pee on the floor.
When Tommy reached the age of 18, the state was no longer legally able to hold him, so he was transferred to the Pinehurst Youth Center. It's kind of a halfway house for at-risk kids. And let's just say he didn't last there very long.
There was some controversy about Tommy's transfer to Pinehurst. We felt it was too close to the site of his childhood trauma, but funding was tight and Pinehurst had an opening, so he went. And that's when it started, yet again.
Shortly after Tommy got to Pinehurst, he witnessed another brutal murder. A fellow patient named Victor J. Fadden, long history of violence, went berserk with an axe and chopped up one of his fellow patients.
You could almost say that Jason's dark influence returned to Crystal Lake along with Tommy. It infected everyone around them.
Especially Roy Burns.
Roy Burns, yeah, he was a local paramedic, quiet guy, bit of a loner. Well, turns out he was also responsible for the slayings up at Pinehurst. Decided for whatever reason to don the mask and act out his own version of the Voorhees legend. Because you see, it was Roy's son, Joey, who got all hacked up at the woodpile.
This violent incident triggered a relapse in Tommy, and he quickly began to lose his grip on reality.
And that's when the murders started again. Another killer using the familiar Voorhees MO.
Look, just because Roy Burns turned out to be a Jason imposter, that doesn't mean the real Jason's influence wasn't involved. After all, everybody knows the etymology of the name Jason comes from the Hebrew for healer, ambulance driver.
I got the 411 on this whole situation. My little cousin, Reggie, well, we used to call him Reggie the Reckless. Reggie lived up in that nut house with my granddad. After that Tommy moved in, some ambulance driver just came in and just started chopping he had knives and shit, and I thought they came to help. But I thought that's what the ambulance did. That's what the ambulance do. Dude even killed Reggie's brother, man. Demon. He killed him in the shit box, man. You don't die in the shit box.
I was just a kid when it happened, 12, 13 years old. I don't know who was more obsessed with Jason Voorhees, Roy Burns, Tommy Jarvis. Doesn't matter. My sister Vi is still dead. We were as close as two sisters could be, me and Violet. Even got our first piercings together. She taught me my favorite dance. And I dedicate my art to her, what I do. This one's for you, Vi.
In a bizarre and perhaps grimly ironic turn of events, the latest rash of killings committed in the Crystal Lake area ended abruptly on the part of the actions of a young, and some would say reckless child.
Reggie took his imposter ass down, man.
He did take him down, though.
Talking. Anyway, Reggie had on that little red little jumpsuit. You know what I'm talking about? The little sweatsuit. It's so cute. He got the pants to match with the hood and all that. But anyway, he pushed the old cracker off the barnyard onto the bed of spikes. Blah, blah. You don't mess with Reggie like that. You just don't do shit like that, man. I mean, he might scream like a little bitch, but he'll fuck your ass up. Even in that little red suit. All day, every day.
Now, this incident proves empirically that the Jason slayings were nothing more than a series of murders perpetrated by copycats.
It proves nothing.
Just because there was one copycat, that does not mean Jason wasn't involved. This was an isolated incident. And thankfully, we never had to see old Roy again.
But even if Jason was dead and buried, his essence, his life force, his joie de vivre was still alive and well.
You don't kill the joie de vivre.
We never totally wrote off the idea that Roy could have been working with the previous killers. Found a heck of a lot of newspaper clippings in his files dating all the way back to the earlier massacres. But you know, Roy is dead and buried now, so we may never know.
But there's another theory. That Roy put on the mask to try to pin the murders on Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy Jarvis. His role here was, in a sense, that of a mere observer. He was a silent witness to a physical manifestation of the shadow self that had long hidden inside him. Looking closer, we can find direct parallels between the Voorhees case and the Burns incident. Like Pamela Voorhees, Roy Burns had a psychotic break after the untimely death of a child. Roy's was an open and shut case, but the legend of Jason lives on to this day.
Here it is. It's the final chapter. I'm sorry, how much did it make? Okay, when we said final, we didn't mean final. No. We meant final as in this year.
Friday the 13th, Part 5. It was called Repetition. Actually, when I auditioned for it, so I didn't know it was a Friday the 13th movie or anything to that nature. I just knew it was Repetition, a horror film, and so I actually thought it was a comedy.
They weren't saying that it was a Friday the 13th because at that time, I think it already had cult status, and they didn't want people like coming out and wanting big money for this project.
I went up to Boston to sign on as a director and writer. I believe I signed right there. I had told my son that I was offered Friday at 5, and he kind of went ballistic. I didn't realize that it had such a following.
I remember seeing the first day that it opened, and I went with my best friend to a theater, and I had no idea the status that the movie had reached. And when he rises up out of the grave, people were standing up in their seats. Whoa, yeah! And I was like, okay, this is a little bit creepy.
My agent then called later on, a couple days later, and said I'd gotten the part. So now I have to sort of figure out, well, who is this Jason guy anyway? Because I don't know.
In 5, A New Beginning, they, of course, everybody has always said, it's an imposter, not the real Jason.
Well, what the hell does that mean? It's a guy in a hockey mask running around with a machete killing people. It's close enough.
I had a Jason mask that had the little blue diamonds on it as opposed to the red. However, I did play the real Jason in a couple of the scenes where you see a flashback, so I really was wearing the original mask in a couple of the scenes.
I learned a lot from Tom later about how stuntmen try to copy the guy that they're doubling. And which must have been a difficult thing for Tom if he was trying to do that all, because Tom and I are totally different.
Actually, when I did the show, I wasn't trying to differentiate. I was trying to be Jason at all times, because the point of it was that this was a Jason character, and if the audience would buy that this is Jason, that's what we're looking for, and we'd reveal what it was later.
It's the actor's problem, trying to figure what is going to make me want to kill all these people. All right, a tragedy. Okay, so we know what the tragedy is. Now we have to let that affect me as much as it can, and to drive Roy a little nuts. No, a lot nuts. And to know where he got the idea to try to be Jason was in the news. He was counties away, but he was in the news, and everybody knew who he was. So he took on that, at least in my mind, we took on that idea to make him hide from the fact that he was doing it. So I'll just be somebody else. You know, but any actor would sort of do the same thing. Because if you don't believe it up here, you're not going to, nobody else is going to believe it.
I was doing a show off and on called Different Strokes, playing Gary Coleman's best friend, and all of a sudden, I'm in this horror film, and halfway through the film, they're like, this is a Friday the 13th film.
Solid.
So I got excited, especially when I realized I got to run Jason over with a tractor. Did I really drive that tractor? I'm not telling. I drove the tractor! Well, I love the red suit. I mean, I think they had 100 to 150 of those suits just on hand because there was a lot of fake rain. I think it had something to do with just blood and just me being covered in the blood. You know, I like to say I was covered in the blood of Jesus personally, but that's, you know, that's my personal religious preference.
Hi, Violet.
Huh? Violet, sent too many places. Huh?
The wardrobe called and said, we're going to go shopping. I got to pick the clothes. I got to pick the song that was in it. It's like it was very hands-on, and I was very much a part of bringing the character to life. My part of Violet didn't seem like a primary part in the film, but it's very interesting to see how much attention the dance scenes got. It's kind of a cross between pantomime and a robot. You're kind of acting out a drama, so you're listening to the words of the song and you gotta act it out, you know.
Friday the 13th Part 5 has the worst reputation, bar none, of any of the sequels, and it's absolute bullshit. It has this incredible mix of just sleazy atmosphere, pitch black humor. I mean, as dark a humor as I've ever seen in any horror film.
Oh, God!
Bunch of pussies.
And I think people weren't really ready for that. I think it was a complete tonal shift in many ways from the previous sequels, and they never went that way again.
Part 5 probably for me was one of the most difficult scores, not because it was a hard score to write. It was difficult for me to wrap my head around what was going on. I always kept the idea of what Friday the 13th sounded like to be about Jason and try to keep that focus. Friday 5 felt like a Jason film, but in my heart I knew it wasn't. The essence of that picture is Jason, and not about, like, well, Jason can be someone who kills for some whatever reason or something like that. That's not it. For me, I did what I was trying to do, which was, again, make it seem like Jason. That was my job, so I just, you know, kept pouring on the Friday the 13th. Then at the end, you know, reveal, oh my God, it's the ambulance driver.
They were so afraid that you would give the ending away somehow. In fact, I had to sign a statement saying that I would not divulge the ending of the film to anyone. And to make sure of that, they left the last 3 or 4 pages blank in the script, so it wasn't even in writing.
The scene where the MPAA just destroyed the whole reason for the scene being there was not a moment of horror or too much blood or too much graphic violence. It was a love scene. Some people knew that I had shot a pornographic film. We had a good-looking guy, a good-looking girl. I think it would have been something that the audience would be able to relax for a while and watch two people just having fun with each other. Instead, there's a guy watching and our attention turns to him, and then basically he dies. And when we go back to the love scene, it's over. It never happened. It just never happened. Every 7 or 8 minutes, they wanted me to shoot some kind of a jump, scare, or a kill, preferably kill. Other than that, I pretty much had free reign over the film.
Eddie, we can't. That'll kill us.
Fuck him.
Fuck you.
Exactly.
See, having sex in these movies kind of triggers a kill, or doing drugs.
Especially for the occasion.
Another scene where the MPA played the editor was the killing of the waitress's boyfriend. Incidentally, the guy who was doing the chopping on the fake head was more and more nauseated by it. He said later on that he was close to vomiting, close to fainting.
You know, the head was, of course, like a real mock-up head. And even though it was, of course, a fake head, it gave you a moment to think because you're actually... As a stuntman, we always try to make things look real, but for the most part, when we're hitting somebody, particularly in the head, we're always missing and using a camera angle. For me to actually take that action was a little different.
You know, the Friday the 13th series has had a long, very proud history with the makeup effects, you know, throughout the whole series. And with Final Chapter, I mean, I know a lot of people say that the Jason makeup in that is one of the best in the series, and that, you know, Savini coming back and doing the effects was a real high point. But, you know, personally, and this is just my opinion, I think it's kind of overrated. I think the work in it, you know, is really kind of overrated. I meant underrated. Underrated really is what I meant to say, because, I mean, there's really no way you could emphasize genius on that level. It's, you know, that's how I would view it.
The final spear that kills Demon is a spear that actually goes through his back and through his stomach, and Demon sacrificed himself for the film. He actually he passed away. We couldn't revive him. Yeah. But no, it came out pretty good. The only trouble was that you didn't see much blood. And I don't think that was the MPAA's fault. I think it might have been mine.
For me, Part 5 deserved so much better, and it's about time people just owned up to the fact that Part 5 is a very underrated movie.
If the memory of Jason still haunts you, You're not alone. Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning.
Severe trauma at age 12. Brutal self-defense, murder of a psychopathic killer. Boy, they've given him every therapy they can think of. It's a wonder his mind isn't fried with all the drugs they've given him.
The mindless, murderous fury that was buried with Jason has been reborn.
Pete!
And suddenly, terror has become child's play. Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning.